guys, welcome back to another episode of Author Interviews with Jazz and Prose. I'm your host, Sai, and today we are here with the lovely Tamara Morgan for her book, Done in the Dark. Miss Morgan, how are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. As I stated, I did another interview today. I just feel like the summer is it's zooming by, like slow down time just a little bit. I'm a teacher, so we go back in 2 weeks. So it's like, oh, just give me a little longer.
But I get shorter.
Yeah, they're getting shorter. They are, but I won't complain. I won't complain. Okay, so I love to start with covers. Okay. So go ahead and tell us, how did you come up with the cover for Done in the Dark?
I worked with the fantastic graphic artist Jermaine Haggerty of Graphics Maine. It was a very iterative, organic process with he and I told him a little bit about the book, gave him the synopsis, and then he and I talked, and literally it was just a back and forth. I told him, these are about secrets, these are about sisters, and they start out young and they get older, and he just kept giving me pictures back and forth, and I was like, well, yes, no, and I didn't know what it was going to look like. We sort of had the images of the young girls, he gave me the images of them older, and just back and forth, and then he gave me this, and I was like, that's perfect, and it just came together.
Yeah, I love that aha moment when it's like, this is it. It's almost like me with shopping. Like I thrift, okay, but it's like, I feel like it's a skill, but like when you know, and I think with covers of a book, it's like when you know, when that it clicks, is like, this matches what I've been visualizing, and it just fits. I love this cover. It's very nice. Yeah.
There was a previous cover that would have been fine. It was a house. It was the image of the house that everything happened in, and I was almost ready to pull the trigger. It was with another artist that I respect very much, and he and I had gone through a lot, and it was just about ready to go, and I just was like, I don't know. It's just something. Yeah. Something's not quite right. And then when I got to this, I was like, oh, we're ready. So I'm going to keep that other cover for something. Yeah. Because it's perfect for something, but it just wasn't quite right.
Yeah. And the reason why, guys, I like to start with the cover is because it's that old question, judging a book by its cover. And I think there's, as an author, there's a lot that, for me anyway, I'll speak for myself, there's a lot that goes into choosing a cover, because you want it to be symbolic and reflect basically the theme, the message, or whatever you're trying to tell in the story. So I love starting with that question, because I always want to just get the mindset of choosing that cover. But this is a beautiful cover. I love it. I love the details. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself as a writer, how you got started.
Okay. So my background, I'm a retired or recovering lawyer. I spent 30 years practicing law. But in the midst of that, I was an employment lawyer, and I was drawn to employment law because everybody has stories. We had the best stories. Now, criminal lawyers have good stories. Family lawyers have good stories, but their stories involve trauma and tragedy, right? And so, you talk to those people and they're like, oh, but there's something bad about it. Employment lawyers, we just have good stories because their whole lives to work. I mean, there's nothing that people will not do or say at work. And so I think that over the years of practicing employment law, I got a bird's eye view into the lives of so many different types of people. And so that influenced my writing. And throughout my work, I also was writing all the time. I was always, jotting down little stories. I'd be at a conference and I'm taking notes about what's going on, but I've got, little stories, little character development on the side. And so for me, I've been an avid reader. And I was reading from the time I can remember. I was a kindergartner collecting books and reading books, and I would be on a trip, going to Southern California to spend the summers with my cousins, carrying a whole suitcase of books
Yeah.
with now my cousins would tease me about that.
Yeah.
They're outside playing and I'm inside with my aunties reading my book. I'm hiding under the covers reading my book. But I just always like to transport myself into these different worlds that were nothing like where I was at, but I felt like I could be there. I could be anywhere in the world. And that always spoke to me. So
yeah, I love that. I completely agree and can relate to that, being an avid reader. And now I'm a reading teacher. So I'm even more so like, read, guys, read. I love reading. And it was something else you said, and it slipped away from me. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Oh, the reason why I was laughing so hard when you were saying that you were an employment lawyer was because, I thought of instantly, I had like 50 stories off the top of my head, things that I'm just like, oh my God. On top of that, before I got into teaching, I was a human resources manager at a major retailer, and I had to deal with customers. I had to deal with, the people on the floor, the sales floor, managers, store region. So it was just it was never a dull day. Never. So yeah, I can.
Why are you doing this? Why would you do that? And they can't help themselves.
Yeah, I learned that. And that's when I said, I'm gonna go work with kids because But okay, well, I think a lot of us that are writers, we love reading, and then it really started at childhood for the good majority. I'll say out of most of the interviews have done, a lot of the people say that it's been since childhood that they just loved reading and writing. Not to say, for the listeners out there, if you choose to start writing, you would have had to have it since you were younger. I'm just saying, I'm noticing a pattern here. Yeah.
Let me say, it's not like I published before. I mean, here I am at this age, publishing my first book. I've got a big satchel, literally a satchel of stories that I started, beginning. Yes. And when I was raising my kids, I remember what my oldest daughter, we won't say how old she is, but I'm pretty sure she's older than you. When they were in middle school, we would be writing stories together. Yeah. And I would write this, I started writing this family saga, and I was trying to write. I really wanted to get away and write, but you got kids doing stuff, so you would involve them and be like, okay, I'm writing about the adults. How about this? You write about the younger characters for me. You write about this kid and tell me their story, and you write about this one. So I'd involve them in writing with me. And so they'd be, all caught up on creating their characters and their world and what's going on in their world, while I'm focusing on my characters. And this is keeping us all busy.
Yes, I love that. Wow, that's the first time I've heard of that. And I love that. As a writer, yes, all the time, my little 6-year-old runs up and he's like, I want to write. And I'm like, okay, you'll go sit down. We're gonna go out to the park. But now, yes, I'm definitely gonna try that with my son. He would absolutely love that. He likes and everything.
You're like, what's going on? You're part of our world. We're creating a whole family saga. And so you got the grandkids, I got the grandmother, and we'll put it all together later.
Yes, I love that. I'm sure the listeners, viewers, they're going to love that idea too. That's amazing. So when it comes to book specific questions, done in the dark, go ahead and tell our viewers out there, what is this book about?
In a nutshell, this is a book about family secrets. It's a book about, specifically, it's about sisters who were very, very close growing up. They were almost like twins. What one did, the other one was doing. Karina is the younger sister who wanted to be, she was in the shadow of Candace, who's not quite a year older than her. And they were just close. And then as they got to be seniors in high school, they start to drift just a little bit. And some things happen, right?
Yeah.
Some things happen. They start to drift apart, and a tragedy hits their family. And within that time, secrets occur. There's stuff, spoiler alerts. There's a bunch of stuff that happens, and they don't see each other for 17 years.
Wow.
And during that 17 years, all kinds of things happen. And the book opens as adults. They're now in their 30s. They haven't seen each other for 17 years. They come together at their grandmother's funeral. They're all they got. They want to reconnect, but they don't want to touch what's happened. They don't want their secrets to come out, because each of them have built lives. They've created identities based on, in large part, those secrets that they've kept from one another, and they've kept from their husbands and the people in their lives now. So can they do that? But as their grandmother had told them, every shut eye ain't sleep, every goodbye ain't gone, and what's done in the dark will come to light.
Ooh, it's gonna come to light. Yeah.
It's gonna come to light. So you, as the reader, you get to go back and learn what did happen.
Yeah.
Then you see, here's what happens as they try to rebuild, and then it all hits the fan.
Yeah. And as you were telling that, I just felt like the suspense and the tension. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm wondering, like, okay, does it come out all at once, or does it, and the readers, I know you don't want to spoil it, but just, I love that you told it so well that it intrigues me to know like how it plays out. So I love that. Now, when it comes to writing the book, right? What would you say, do you think that there was a really challenging part of you putting the story together, like as you're writing it?
I think, well, there are various challenging moments, right? Because it took me, I wrote this book over a long period of time.
Okay.
I was raising kids, I was practicing, it was a lot of things going on. I would put it down and come back to it. And for me, some people are very disciplined in how they go about writing, but for me, I'm writing, I'm editing, I go back, I change it. This story has gone through so many permutations.
Yeah.
So it was challenging just to keep on track and to make myself finish it.
Yeah.
But it was also challenging to think about how the characters matured over time, because they were teenagers and then they become adults, and their thinking and their approach to parenting, to relationships, all of those things change over time. And I wanted to sort of be true to that process, but also capture what they would have been experiencing and feeling in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it'd be like, oh, well, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. I don't want to say that. That doesn't seem right. And it's like, but at 17, that's what she's feeling.
Yeah.
At 17, that was her reality. That may not feel right or seem appropriate to me at whatever age I was, but at 17, that was real for her.
Yes.
So that was challenging, just to keep in it, to be authentic at the various ages and stages that the characters were.
Okay. And did you do a lot of flashbacks, or does it go back and forth between present day and back in the day, or?
We start in present day is 2005. So we start in 2005 for a couple chapters. Then there's a good chunk of the book that takes us back to the late 80s. And the late 80s in Oakland, for the most part, in Oakland and a little bit in Texarkana, because one of them goes back south. But for those folks that don't know, the late 80s in Oakland is when the crack epidemic hit. And so you get to learn a little bit about what that was like for the community in Berkeley and Oakland when crack first hit, and what that meant. And so we get a little bit about that. So there's a little bit of research that had to be done for that. And then we come back to, or we go forward to 2005. We stay in 2005 because now they're in their 30s and they're dealing with what had happened back then. So not a bunch of flashbacks, but you have these grown women who are dealing with the repercussions of decisions that they made as teenagers.
Okay, I love that. And I think, I say it all the time. Writing is easy for everyone except for writers. Okay. There's so much that goes into the planning to make it make sense, and I really do believe that if you take the time to flesh out your characters, they will write the story for you because they're making choices based on the background you gave them, where the setting is so important. Like you said, Oakland, you went back, you did research with the crack epidemic, which I love those things. It's such a time to just really, what do I want to say? The narrative is what I'm saying. So depending on who wrote the book, right, the narrative is going to play out a certain type of way. So I think that's so important that when, even though it's fiction, you can still add those historical times within there and show that point of view. So I love that. As far as when you're creating your characters, what does that process look like for you? The story that you want to write. Do you have, for example, I have literally a manila folder of character profiles that has like their date, date of birth, how they look, all like everything. So what's your process like when you're creating your characters for your novel?
I do something similar. I have all of that. I may know a favorite color. I have stuff that never actually gets into the book.
Yes.
Just all kind, to the point where I'm like, okay, you need to let this go. I can't. Like, oh, her best friend was so and so. This happened in high school. This happened in third grade. They are real people.
Yeah.
And it helps me to understand how they might really feel in any given moment or time. And so yes, and I include more as I go. I feel like I learn more about them as I go. So I'm writing the sequel right now, and I go back to the character profile that I wrote before. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know about this part of her. Let me think about this. Let me go back and learn more about her. Cause that didn't come up before, but I need to make sure. Did it come up before? Was there anything that I said before that would give me insight into this new wrinkle? Because I need it to be authentic. I need it to be real,
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, I think when you develop complex, characters, readers fall in love. Okay. And that's not to say that it could be a villain, it could be, it doesn't matter, like the protagonist, antagonist, that, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Easy Rollins. And I think it's Walter Mosley. I don't want to get it wrong. Yes. Okay. So I know, like, I've watched a lot of his like interviews and things like that, and the readers in the audience were just, they loved that character, and they developed their own relationships with that character based on being the reader. So I think for many authors, we want that. I know I definitely want that for my readers. I want them to feel like they know this person. So like you said, with you're doing the sequel, it's endless almost, until it's, the end.
Before I try to answer that, let me speak to what you said about readers getting so attached to characters. When I wrote Done in the Dark, I felt a certain way about the two main female characters, so Karina and Candace. And I didn't realize how people would get attached to the characters, right? They're my characters, but I didn't know. so I've started getting feedback from readers, and this particular book club got really into the book, and we've been meeting on Zoom and stuff. And when I tell you that I've had people tell me about these characters
Yeah.
and tell me, no, Miss Tamara, that's not what was going on. I literally had a conversation where they tell me, some people were like, no, that's not what I think. I don't think that's what was motivating this person. Really what was going on. And people that don't like Karina. And I was like, you don't feel empathy? No, they do not like Karina. I was like, oh, well, I wasn't really writing. I didn't think that people would feel a certain way. Oh, no, they feel a certain way about that I did not anticipate. And so, to the point where I was like, I might need to read this my own self again. I didn't round her in a way that I thought I did. So I think that, yes, when and I know from my own reading that you get attached to characters. And so I think it's such a testament, I feel really honored that people are attached to these characters and they start to imbue them with characteristics themselves because they start to imagine them and get to know them themselves.
Is that when you are vulnerable enough to put out your art to the world for other people to interpret, you have to be okay with it being perceived in different ways, because people are going to put their own spin based on their background knowledge, based on their experiences, text to self connections. And I think for your story, okay, what is that show called on I can't think of it, but it was like a church kind of family. I think it was on OWN, and it was about a lady who she went back to her hometown and there were secrets. Yes, Greenleaf. Okay. Like with stories like that around those kind of topics with that. And I literally was just watching Fix My Life, Iyanla Fix My Life. I feel like there's so many in the African American, I will speak because I'm not in any other culture. We do have a lot of things that are swept under the rug for a lot of us. And I think now it's becoming more acceptable and, normal to go to therapy and things like that and talking about traumatic experience, healing, moving forward, mending family relationships and things like that. And I think with this book, because that's kind of a theme in there, people are going to have strong opinions about these characters because, based on the stuff that they may be dealing with or have dealt with or from a friend and things like that. And people love secrets. Oh my God, I'm one of them. I'm so nosy. I love a good I'm flipping through them pages. I want to know what's happening. So yeah, I think that's great. Say, I know I'm getting into a lot of the specifics here. One more specific question. When it comes to pacing the suspense of, them eventually mending, did you go about that in a strategic way, or did it just come to you? Did you say, okay, I need to put at least 3 different things that happen before?
I tried to be strategic about it. I am not, I did not go through, I don't have an MFA. I didn't, take any classes on, or didn't finish any classes on how to write a novel. I know there are people that have very clear guidelines about you must have, there are beats and there's this and that. I don't know how to do any of that.
You told the story.
I told the story and I read through. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so this is very much do it the way I think it should be done because I read a lot. So there's not. I'm creative, but I'm not
a formula.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. But I did have a feel for, okay, we're going to get to a climax, right? We're going to understand, we got to get to a point where it's like, okay, we're building up. So there is a point at which, we're building up to something. So there is a build up to a scene in the story, but it's not just like you build up and then we're done, right? So you build up to something and then some other stuff has to happen.
Yeah.
And So it was important to build up to a big thing, and then some other things happen, because for me, when in my writing, so I like to read lots of things, right? I like to mysteries and thrillers and crime
Yeah.
stuff, all kinds of things. But for me in my writing, I want to write about, I like to write about families. I like to write about women and the relationships that they have and secrets and all this kind of thing, because I think it gives readers a chance to have a little bit of distance. It's for, if you're not in therapy, right? It still, it gives us a chance to play out, to see some things, to play out like, this either happened to me or it happened to somebody I know, or I see some similarities. There are themes here. So we got themes of forgiveness, and it helps us build empathy. So there's ways that we can tackle some tough topics.
Yeah.
And without saying, so did this happen in you? So for me, I wanted to address some big things that a lot of folks have going on in their families, and yet give us some distance.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we've got a big discovery that happens, a big secret comes out. That's great. Big secrets come out. The real issue is, well, what do we do? What do we do with them? How do we handle it when stuff hits the fan in our lives, in our families? Because on TV, that episode is over and then you move on.
Yeah.
But in real life, you have to, these are still your people. These are still your people. This is still your sister. This is still your daughter, your husband, your whatever. Even if you decide you don't want that to be your husband or whatever, you still got to go through the divorce. Or you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't just end because the episode is over. And so I want to use this platform as a way of helping people see their way through to the next step. And so that's important to me, and that's important in the storyline, to be like, okay, so what's next? What's next? Still keep it entertaining.
Yeah.
Interested, but the what's next is still a big deal. So the story continues beyond the like, okay, that secret is